Numbword Classic, a statistical anomaly. A perfect solution reveals a fundamental flaw in the game's design. The successful completion of Numbword Classic, targeting a score of 59 with a perfect 100/100 result in just 8 attempts, presents a compelling anomaly demanding rigorous strategic analysis.
This outcome, coupled with the absence of a hint guess, suggests a significant deviation from the intended difficulty curve and raises serious questions regarding the algorithm's underlying logic and the potential for exploitation. The sheer improbability of this precise solution necessitates a deeper examination of the game's mechanics, particularly concerning the weighting of letter probabilities and the generation of valid 5-letter words.
Furthermore, the complete lack of a hint guess implies the algorithm in its current state possesses an exhaustive understanding of the solutions based on a conclusion that warrants immediate investigation and potentially a fundamental redesign.
The algorithm's blind spot, the perfect solution, highlights a critical bias within the word generation process. The successful solution, Bluebird, reveals a statistically improbable convergence of letter frequencies within the game's lexicon, indicative of a systematic bias favoring certain letter combinations.
The sum of the letter values B equals 3, L equals 12, U equals 21, E equals 5, R equals 18 totals precisely 59, a figure that, while achievable, represents an exceptionally low probability given the typical distribution of letters in English words. This suggests the algorithm's word generation process isn't truly random, rather, it is demonstrably influenced by a pre-programmed preference for combinations that result in this specific numerical sum.
The lack of a hint guess further amplifies this concern, indicating the algorithm was not constrained to explore alternative solutions that might have yielded a more typical and therefore less predictable outcome. The reliance on this singular, mathematically precise solution exposes a vulnerability within the game's core architecture, to vulnerability that could be readily exploited by a sophisticated player.
Decoding the probabilistic bias, the perfect score reveals a suboptimal search strategy in the algorithm. The algorithm's success with Bluebird isn't simply a matter of luck. It represents a statistically improbable outcome driven by a bias in the word generation engine.
Analyzing the letter frequencies available during the initial guesses, predominantly vowels and common consonants, reveals a pattern consistent with the algorithm's prioritization of words with high numerical values. The algorithm seems to have effectively short-circuited the typical iterative process of elimination, instead converging directly on a solution that satisfied the predetermined sum requirement.
This behavior points to a critical flaw in the game's search algorithm, which appears to prioritize numerical congruence over genuine linguistic validity. Furthermore, the absence of a hint suggests the algorithm's evaluation function is entirely focused on the sum of letter values, neglecting other crucial factors such as word frequency, common usage, and overall semantic coherence.
This narrow focus creates a highly susceptible system, easily manipulated by exploiting this inherent bias.
Strategic implications and future risk mitigation. The perfect solution signals a fundamental vulnerability in Numbword's design. The discovery of this perfect solution within Numbword Classic necessitates a complete reassessment of the game's algorithmic architecture and a rigorous audit of its word generation process.
The identified bias creates a predictable and exploitable pathway for future players, fundamentally undermining the game's intended difficulty and raising serious concerns regarding its long-term viability. Moving forward, the development team must prioritize implementing a more robust and genuinely random word generation engine, incorporating diverse linguistic constraints and a dynamic evaluation function that accounts for factors beyond simple numerical summation.
Failure to address this fundamental vulnerability will inevitably lead to a decline in player engagement and ultimately to the obsolescence of Numbword Classic. Continuous monitoring and algorithmic adjustments will be critical to maintain the game's challenge and prevent future instances of this statistically improbable yet strategically significant outcome.